Pete Malinverni here, Chair of Jazz Studies at Purchase College, and along with Performing Arts Center Director Seth Soloway, I'm co-curator of Jazz at the Center. And welcome to the fifth and final installment of What's Going On Up There, where we talk about the various elements of music and how they relate to what goes on in a jazz performance. Many of you have listened to jazz and been fans and supported us over the years, for which we thank you. And this little series has been my effort to kind of let you know what's actually going on when we're up there on stage improvising for you. We've talked about four other elements previously. We talked about melody, rhythm, harmony, and texture. And, just a quick note here, while we can talk about these various elements separately and kind of tell you how we address each of those, it's important to remember that when you're thirsty, you don't want somebody to hand you a bottle of two parts hydrogen and another bottle of 1 part oxygen. You're still going to be thirsty until they're blended and we have water. And it's just like that with music. Sure, we can talk about the various elements and how we address each of those, but it's not music until we put all the elements together. We talked about melody and how that sort of addresses the heart. You know, how when you hear a melody, it can have an emotional tug on you. You can remember wistfully some moment in your life because of melody. We talked about rhythm and how that really relates to the body and how it's that rhythmic sense that really, I think, draws us in as listeners, sort of really more overtly joins us with the performers as a feeling, breathing, moving unit in the room. And it's that kind of connection that we jazz musicians really prize and go for. We talked about harmony and how each voice, as it goes along in a piece of music, is sort of like a school of fish, right? We have each voice, whether it be soprano, alto, tenor, bass, or trumpet, saxophone, piano, bass, and drums, right? And how all those things, each person doing those has his or her own job to do, and like that school of fish moves along separately, but then when the shaft of sunlight comes down, we see where everyone is at that moment. And if we're talking about notes, melodic notes, or tones, then we can determine what the harmony is. And then we talked about texture and how we can play high notes, or we can play low notes, or we can have a bass player playing pizzicato or arco. We can hear a drummer playing with sticks on the cymbals or brushes on the snare drum. We talked about how the trumpet player or the trombone player can use various mutes to change the sound. And over time, I've recommended that you might listen to various instruments and musicians to hear just the different sounds. We go back always to Miles Davis and his use of the Harmon mute on his trumpet, and what a really individual sound that gave. And we talked about how in texture, where you might play really dense chords, or we might play real simply with the same chords, but right? So that's just texturally different. And it's up to the jazz musician, who we've said over and over again is composer and performer at the same time, how to utilize these various elements to express and hopefully evoke in our listener real human emotion. Today we're going to talk about the final element of music, which is form. You've seen jazz performances where you'll see each player or singer be sort of in the spotlight for a moment, taking his or her solo. And And I don't know, maybe you've wondered, well, how do they know when they're done, and how does everyone stay together? You might hear a drummer take a break, take a little solo, or there'll be exchanges between the other instrumentalists and the drummer, and you may say, well, gee, how does everybody know when to come back? Well, it's the form, and we'll take a quick look at form. Form is basically you take the rhythm, and let's say we have various numbers of measures, right? We talked about the beats and how they're organized into measures. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Well, those I just counted. 3 measures in 4/4. Let's say we're in 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, that's 3 measures of 3, right? And so in these forms, the most well-known form is the American Popular Song form, AABA it's called. So you have an 8-measure section, 8 bars. We call that the A section, right? So that happens, then it repeats. And then there's an entirely new B section, also 8 measures long. And then again, a repetition of that first A section. So A, B, A, each of those 4 sections being 8 measures in length leaves us with 32 measures. Most American popular songs are of that form. And so we can, let's say on the bandstand, let's say we're looking at that 32 bars, right? And so after we play it or sing it or whatever happens, then it's time for the solos. Trumpet player may take a chorus, which is one circuit through those 32 measures, right? Trumpet player may play 2 choruses. But towards the end of each of those choruses, we're all keeping an eye on each other to know, okay, the trumpet player's done now, so now it's, let's say, the saxophone player's turn to take a chorus, or 2, or however long, and so on and so forth. And it's the same thing with the drummer. So we might trade sections. I might say, okay, I'm going to improvise for 8 bars, and then the drummer gets 8 bars. Well, the drummer is playing on that second A. When I come back, it's the B now. And then the drummer will play on that last 8. So we now have played one whole chorus. And this just keeps on going, and that's how we stay together. So let's take a look at, for example, this song. That's 8 measures. It repeats. Different words, but right? So now we've got 16 measures. Now it's time for that new information, the bridge. We call it the bridge. Troubles melt like lemon drops. Right, so now that's 24. We've got 8 more bars. Now we go to improvise on that. See if you can follow the form as I improvise. that's one chorus of me improvising melodies over the same harmonies that repeat each time, right? So now maybe I'll take another chorus. If I'm feeling it that day, you know, and maybe time is not a concern, perhaps I'll take another chorus, and then maybe the bass player will take a chorus, right? That's basically it. There's another form I want to talk to you about, which is truly, truly American. It's the blues, right? We talk about the blues, and when I say the blues, you may be thinking about, you know, an old guy with a guitar playing the blues or singing the blues, right? And that's true. But it's also become a form, a very much a codified form of 12 measures. And the blues, instead of the AABA being 4 sections of 8 measures in length, the blues is 3 sections of 4 bars, right? So each chorus is only 12 measures long. And it's a really cool thing. It comes from a verbal tradition that goes along with the rule of 3, which I'm sure you've heard of before. You know, everyone knows the rule of 3. You know, if you're telling a joke, right, and the Irish guy does one thing, you know, the Italian guy does another thing, and then the joke comes when the third guy, whatever he is, does something funny, right? So the first 2 are used to set up what you expect, and then the third is the punchline, right? And it's like that with the blues. So you might hear, sent for you yesterday, here you come today. That's 4 bars. Sent for you yesterday, here you come today. Now here's the punchline. You can't love me, baby, and treat me that way. Right? So that's 12 bars. That's a chorus of the blues. So we have 4 bars. Then we repeat melodically, but it's a different set of chords, right? Slightly different chords for that second 4 bars. And then the release, or that final 4 bars, right? And the blues is just, as you know, I mean, that's been part of the American music scene. Of course, it comes as all American music, originally from the African American tradition, but it's worldwide. I mean, the Beatles, when they first started, for example, you know, they were looking at Chuck Berry and all those great blues artists, and well, Elvis Presley, all those, you know. All those people that became famous were basically using that 12-bar blues form, which was begun long ago. So here, I'm going to give you a little blues tune written by the great Thelonious Monk, great pianist composer, and he called this one Blue Monk. So. Bars. Now it happens again. Right? That's 8 total. Now here comes the last 4. Right? That's 12 bars. So now I'm going to play it for you, and I'll play a couple of choruses, and then I'll repeat the melody at the end. Okay? That was 12 bars. that's a 12-bar blues, and I played the melody one time, right, which was 12 measures. Then I took, I think, 2 choruses of 12 bars each, and then I came back and reprised the melody. So there you have it, form. So we talked about, and I want to invite you to go back and look at our whole series. We talked about melody, then we talked about rhythm, then we talked about harmony, we talked about texture, and today form. 5 elements of music, and when you put them together and respect each of those elements and then use them to purposes of expression and evocation of human feeling, then you have music. And when you do it on the spot, you have jazz music. It's been really my great pleasure. I'll be doing some little things for the PAC, which we'll pass on to you, little performances. I'll play, give you 5 or 10 minutes of music from, you know, from my home here every now and then, and we will we'll post those on the PAC site. But for now, I want to thank you very much. You've been really lovely. I've been getting some terrific notes from people over time that have appreciated our series. We're doing the best we can. We want to mount a season for you, and we will before too long at the PAC of great jazz music. But until then, this is what we can do, and we're sending our love, and we're sending our good wishes. Stay good. Thank you.